Thank you for watching a C&CProjectFactory production. Please hit that subscribe button and alert bell. What are we waiting for? Let's get things done. All right, we're getting right into it, the feet. Some of the details I'm not going to do. It's a little involved. I want to get the angles correct first. There's a couple of odd angles in here. Got some shoulders to cut, the radius, that little tab that goes on the top of the body, the hole for the pivot, which I'm going to use a screw as opposed to just the pressure fit as it was on the actual unit. So we got to get it on here to pivot. Nope, wrong way. Pivot, pivot. There we go. We have that tight corner from the radius to go into the shoulder. I think I just like saying shoulder. I'm not even sure that's the correct term. Most of this is going to have to be cleaned up with on the mill as opposed to the CNC. All right, onto the mill. The indexable face mill I'm using is a 4-inch 45 degree with 6 SCHT inserts. When I first got this face mill, one of the 6 inserts was a little bit lower than it should have been. I had to set it up on the indicator and figure out which one was too low, back the screw out, adjusted it slightly, and then retightened it down so that it wasn't playing with the others. So please check your inserts. On to the CNC. I'm using the 3/16 3-flue end mill. Again, it is my favorite end mill. I use it for just about everything. Sometimes I'll do a 1/4 inch 3-flue, but the 3/16 just works. Carveco is the CAD/CAM program I'm using for this entire project. You can find the links down in the show notes. I ran 3 separate programs for this: the pocket, a rough outside, and the final finish pass for the outside. I like having a separate program for each step. I know it takes longer, but if there's an issue, I find it easier to adjust several independent programs other than one big one. It's just my preference. Now that the CNC is done, we need to square up the pockets and radius the back corner to be able to pivot on the main body. I'm using a 1/2-inch 4-flue end mill to just get a little bit better finish out of this. Now, cutting the back relief, I was stepping down for each cut as I was afraid that if I took a bigger chunk out, I would start getting some nasty vibration. Milling these small parts, I've had to learn something that I really do not like. It's called patience. What a gross, disgusting word. I apologize for the radius cut camera angle. It is the worst possible place I could have put the camera to cut the radius. I was so focused on not screwing up the cut that I left the camera where it was and didn't even think about it. By the way, I was using a 1/4 inch radius end mill. Next are the holes in the back to install the 440 screw to pivot on the main body. Using the number 1 center drill, going to a 7/64 drill bit, then the countersink. Rinse and repeat. Now we have the pivot arms for each of the wings. So right now they're actually connected to the cylinder on the lower body. They just pop on and pivot back and forth. I had to change the design a little bit because the main body had the cylinder where the pivot arms connected to. I didn't want to mill that into the main body. I wanted it as a separate piece. I thought that these were going to be very much more difficult to make because everything is pretty much a radius. We have this weird section that is kind of chunked up compared to the other side. And we have this hole here where the wing is supposed to connect and pivot. Then obviously the larger hole that we have to connect with that separate piece onto the main body. Back onto the milling machine. Oh look, it's the 4-inch 45-degree indexable face mill again. What a huge surprise. I guess I could have used the smaller face mill on these smaller blanks, but go big, I guess. I failed to mention this on the other passes on the mills, but the first pass I take about 2/1000ths, and on the second pass on the back side I take 3/1000ths off. Once again, trying to keep them fairly close to stock size. Back to the CNC once again. Hey, a 3/16 end mill on the CNC again. Wonder what the odds are. I probably could try to use a different end mill at some point, but why fix it if it's not broken? Milling these pivot arms out on the CNC, I did them in 2 separate programs. I really truly thought about doing the hole on the end going into the main body on the CNC. I really wanted it more perfect than what I believe the fidelity of my CNC could get. The CNC has been hitting the numbers pretty well, but I wanted these holes to be on the money. I wanted to locate them manually on the milling machine and make sure that I have a really, really nice hole, because they're going to be sliding on a cylinder a lot. Nothing like pivoting a circle on an oval. Now we're going to head back to the milling machine to drill the main body holes and to thread tap the hole for the wings. After locating the hole, I did the number 4 center drill, then a 3/8 drill bit, then a 1/2 inch drill bit, then a 39/64 drill bit, then a 5/8 reamer. Something I caught myself doing after watching these videos is I am peck drilling with a reamer. I know better than that. You just have to have a nice, slow, steady feed rate. I have no idea why I was doing that. I guess that's what happens when you just get way too hyper-focused on something. It is really nice catching errors that you do after the fact, so hopefully in the future you do not make those same errors again. You'll see it right here again. Just terrible. I'm using a 3/16 end mill, shocker, to cut a relief for the wings to fold into. I thought about cutting the flange off of the wing, but I thought the wing would look better with it how it was originally designed. I'm really happy how it turned out. I believe it looks more complex, more like a real Transformer would. Testing the wing out here to make sure that the relief was cut enough. I'm really happy with how the relief turned out for the wing pivot here. I'm glad I didn't chop the wing apart. Is it a relief? Is that considered a shoulder? I don't think I'm using the term shoulder correctly, but I think it might be true in this case. Next, we're going to be drilling the holes and thread tapping them for the wings. Thread tapping these pivot arms to attach to the wings. I started with a number 1 center drill, then a number 43 drill bit, then onto a GH2 440 tap. I chose a GH2 tap so I can get a little bit tighter fit with the screw. Once again, I'm using the Relton green aluminum cutting fluid for drilling the holes and lubricating for the tap. I recommend it. Again. Alright, so this is what we got so far. Old legs, new legs. Old wings, new wings. Old pivot arms, I guess. New pivot arms. So we got the old ones here that generally pop in and pivot back and forth. Kind of like this. Come on. So then the new ones here. So you can see how I was originally going to cut this down, but I'll show you right now as to why that ended up not being a good idea, and I kept it the way it was, and I did not realize this until after I put it together. For the pivot here, it has a natural stopping point. So now when I pivot to bring the wing out from the cassette form, it has a natural stopping point. That was a happy accident. I wish I could say I planned that, but I did not see that coming until I put it together. Alright, get that last screw in there. Alrighty, so now we have our wings. Everything's starting to really come together. Looking really good. Technically, I believe that goes like this to hook in to the final cassette form. All we need now is the body. So we have the two there it goes. We have the two body pieces right here. So obviously that's going to go right there, and then the other one is underneath it as such. Oh, other way around. All right. Next video, we're hitting the body. The top here is die cast with two little pegs here that won't be there. We're using screws instead of those for the pivot arms. The bottom is plastic. Few issues with troughing this out, being the material is going to be very thin, plus little stop points in the front, if you can see that, for the neck. The cylinders here for the pivot arms, those are actually going to be separate. I didn't want to mill those into the whole body itself. Once again, this is Chris with C&CProjectFactory. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit that subscribe and alert bell. Now go get things done.